Graphic Design Defined: the what, how, where, when, and who of graphic design. Welcome to Graphic Design Defined. Over the coming weeks, we'll take you on a stroll through the technicolor world of graphic design. We will cover everything from the visual and psychological art of storytelling, including branding, typography, and logo design, to what to expect from a career as a professional graphic designer. This series of podcasts is brought to you by the Australian Academy of Graphic Design. Let's just dive right back into it. So continuing on from talking about branding and the power of branding and building your own brand, we'll talk about the importance of having an actual accreditation or education in graphic design and what that brings to this kind of role. So then when it comes to a graphic designer, speaking of branding, I mean, should an actual designer, I suppose if you're going freelance, right, and what you're doing is you're selling your own service,
Yeah.
should a graphic designer look at sort of personal branding? I mean, is that something that you do? How would you go about that?
Yeah, definitely. You need to create a brand that gives off everything about you, like I say, about the logo and stuff, but you have to have a brand kind of guideline for yourself as well. So obviously everything from the typography and the fonts used to the way that you dress, the way that you speak, the way that you interact with people. You have to have a personal brand. As if you're becoming a freelancer, we've spoken about this before, you have to be you're a small business. People are coming to you for a business or a an element of what they need for their business, but they see you as a business, and you have to be professional in the environment that you sit within, and that's obviously comes down to the way that you look and the way that your work looks, but also your email footer, your website, your portfolio, like we say, your business card. Everything needs to cohesively work in a visual sense, but also in a kind of ethos. Kind of everything about me is, you can tell from my brand. So my colors in my brand, they used to be yellow, and now they're more of like a dark blue.
Oh, okay, really? Yeah.
I think that just comes with age. I think I'm just more of a dark blue man now.
You're losing pigment as you get older.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I used to. The types of brands that I used to interact with when I was first started out as a freelancer were more. I don't mean more fun, but less kind of B2B. They were more B2C,
I see.
business to business rather than business to consumer or customer. So now I work within the areas I work within are more seen as more professional, if you like. They're more professional services.
So like a company, for example, is going to have a company ethos, right? They're going to have a manifesto. They're going to have their, message and their stance. Do you have to do that as a human person? Do you have to say, I'm a graphic designer and this is how, like, would you have sat down and sort of broken down what you want to present, or is it more organic?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, you kind of like every design is different. Every, depends on what type of designer you are in terms of what sort of area you sit within. So if you're an illustrator, you might be more kind of inclined to dress it in a more interesting way than a standard
Like
graphic
a clown
designer.
or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, because you have to be seen. Everything
Sure.
about you has to exude everything that you're going to give to that company. So if they're seeing you for the first time and you walk in and you don't fit,
Exactly.
you go in, if I go into some of the professional environments that I work within and I go in flip-flops and shorts and a t-shirt, it's not going to work. But back when I first started out, that might have been okay.
Okay, yeah.
Because of the type of area, the type of kind of business that I was getting, it was very different. I mean, my first job was within a bank, and you'd automatically think with that strict suits and everything. But I turned up just being me, and because I knew the brand a little bit, it was Egg Bank, and they were one of the first online banks, and they're very, very out there, if you like. They were very Illustrator, cool, like happening, and because it was new to the industry, the online world of banking, they kind of constructed that for themselves. And the way that they looked. So I went in there being me, as as fresh out of uni. Not necessarily I don't think I was in flip-flops, but certainly trainers and some sort of cargo shorts or something. Very relaxed.
Yeah.
But I initially knew I was probably going to be up there with the people that they got involved in this
Yeah.
process, because my boss became my boss, turned up to the interview with me in pretty much exactly the same outfit.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
He was like, "All right, mate," and I was
Yeah.
like, "Right,
Yeah.
I fit in." But it's that kind of relationship that you get,
Yeah.
between you and the client, whether you're internal or sort of
I
external
guess it's
freelance.
kind of like reading, you kind of read the room, right?
Yeah,
Or just use your kind of cup on to sense what's appropriate.
yeah,
And I suppose stick to, you don't want to feel like you're in fancy dress either, right? You want to stick to your own
yeah,
personal brand, but yeah, have respect for what's expected of you. It's
yeah.
interesting, isn't it? You don't
I
think of
think
it
if I started now, as a younger guy starting off now, I'd probably tweak my kind of personal brand to suit more, if you like. So,
yeah,
like I say, my initial branding was more yellow and sort of orange and kind of vibrant in that kind of way.
yeah.
But I don't think I'd start that now. I think I'd be more refined, maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that comes with knowledge, and that comes with time. I
Surely.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, you have got to be true to yourself. The worst thing you can do, like you say, is dress yourself up in a kind of outer sheep skin, and
Yeah.
it's not true to what's within.
Is all this design chat suddenly stirring something up inside you? Head over to graphicdesignacademy.com.au. You'll get loads of info on courses, flexible study plans, and easy payment plans. Branding is so much more than just a logo and colours. It really is a representation of the entire sort of ethos, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk then a little bit about the importance of having an education in, the field of graphic design in general, but even as an extension of something like branding and color, because I guess there's pitfalls there. If you don't know what you're doing, you don't have the right sort of insights, you could make mistakes. Like we talked about cultural differences with color psychology. So tell us just briefly, I guess, what is sort of covered, say, in the academy or in your education that you absolutely bring to the table every time you sit down and you design something new?
If it's brand new, you've got to start from the foundations upwards, and as a graphic designer, you need to know what those foundations are. Your design elements and your design principles, which as soon as you come onto the academy, you will be introduced to. And it's important to grow pretty much every concept and every idea off the back of strong foundational knowledge of these principles and elements. And it is color and it is shape and it is line, but it's how you put everything together. It's the principles behind it all as well. And if you don't know them, like you say, you can make huge errors, which then maybe your client necessarily doesn't understand or can't associate with, and sees it for, can't see the wood from the trees necessarily, but she's fine because they're the client. They're influenced by you as the designer. And before you know it, the brand's gone out there, and the image has gone out there, and it creates the wrong look. It creates the wrong association, whether that's with color or line or
Yeah.
shape or whatever within those that kind of fundamental knowledge that we try. Well, I especially as the lead tutor kind of impart on all the students very early on.
Yeah. Because in theory, you could really just pick up a book, right? And just read all that stuff and learn it. So as in memorize it. So what is it that's so different about, I guess, the more practical hands-on experience of being in a graphic design course that, helps you really learn that in a deeper way?
I think it's like it. I always picture it like a sort of safe space, a knowledge safe space where you're kind of playing about with things, because you can read all about color and association and stuff, but actually doing it, like you say, getting hands on with it, and then creating something and going, I think that is association. The association there is correct, and I think that what I've done there is right. It's that safe space to be able to then go, look, as a tutor, coming to me, is that right? I think that's right. I think it responds to the X, Y, and Z. You've annotated it, and you've kind of structured your theories based on the principles and the elements. Am I right in the way I've applied it? And within that safe space, I then can offer suggestions and maybe give you a little bit of a backup, but say, yes, that is right. You
Yeah.
may want to look at doing X, Y, and Z, but you've created the overall look of it will be appropriate for the audience that you're trying to target.
Yeah. Because we learn so much from our mistakes. So the best place to fail is in a safe space like that, where you get the guidance. So you're not doing it in the professional realm and ruining your reputation, I suppose.
Exactly, because
Yeah.
like you say, and the problem with the way that the world's built now is you only have to make one error or one um, missed
Yeah.
association, and everyone will see it
Yeah.
all around the world instantly. And it's that instant. So you have to be sure of what you're doing in the initial stage, and within that safe space, we can help people grow
Yeah.
and begin to play about with the theories and the concept, and the principles and the elements, and help them have that kind of background knowledge to be able
Yeah.
to then put that into practice.
Yeah, I mean, it must be kind of, now that you mention it, because everything is just so available in the public sphere now. It must be quite, I mean, it's a great way to promote yourself, but it's also a minefield of, opinions and and
Yeah.
canceling. People are
Yeah,
just
you're always going to get people that don't like the brand, or
right.
don't see it the way that other people do.
Yeah,
And that depends on the target audience. If your company's trying to target a huge breadth of demographic, then within that demographic there is bound to be someone or a group of people that doesn't necessarily respond to it in a positive way.
right.
Um, it's part and parcel of being a designer. You're going to get people that are negative towards stuff, but hopefully you'll get a lot more people that are more positive to it.
Yeah. I suppose as well, when you put your stuff out there, you put your work out there, you're putting your heart on your sleeve. You need to develop a bit of a thick skin because it's really not personal, right? It's
Mm.
just opinion. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and as an artist, any artist, you're bound to take things. A lot of artists are very they don't want to show their work necessarily. They just have
mm,
to, whether
yeah,
it's to sell a service or to sell the actual art
mm,
itself. And I'm as a designer, I'm exactly the same. I kind of like. I really hope this is received
yeah,
well. Every time you produce something, no matter what your experience is, you're always like that as a designer.
yeah. Because you put a lot of yourself into it, no matter what way you spin it. Yeah. So would you say then, starting out? I mean, it's competitive, obviously, right? Like that, there's a lot of people out there. There's a public sphere out there where people can throw their work up, and I guess some great, just naturally talented people can emerge from that. Is having a qualification going to give you that extra edge when you're looking for work? It feels like if there's a mountain of portfolios on a table, someone's going to start with, well, who's got a qualification when we look at that first? Is that the case, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. It depends on experience. So I think that's kind of measured in actual real world experience, but also as academic experience. So you initially look at the people that maybe are relatively new to the industry. So you've just got your qualification, or you've been doing freelance maybe for a year or something while you're waiting to get the right job.
Yeah,
You start to look at what they've done, how they've done it. You've looked at where they've studied and what qualifications they've got. It kind of comes as a whole package.
yeah,
I think that the worst, I've employed people obviously over my years, and the worst thing you can do is just look at the qualifications, but also you have to bear them in mind. You have to bear that, where they've come from and what they've learned, and their experience sort of encircles that, if you like.
yeah. So it's a building blocks, I suppose.
Yeah.
And would you say then, like, to say your students who have just graduated, and they're going out, I mean, this is a whole other, we'll probably have a whole other chat about this again, but just, you take that qualification, they're building their brand, for example. Is it a case of go out there and get experience with what you've learned and curate your portfolio, or is it a case of try and get an internship and get a job? I mean, what would be a good way to kind of make yourself known, get yourself out? I know it's a huge question, I know.
It's different for everyone, because when I
Right.
first started out, I had a little bit of freelance going on at the sort of initial stages, just trying to get some money in, and kind of build my portfolio off the back of it, so I could say that these were live projects. But at the same time, you don't necessarily need that. You can create projects for yourself. You can create, your personal branding project could be one of the things in your portfolio. There's things that you can do. You could do that, some sort of pro bono type stuff, some free work for friends or for charities or stuff like that. and you begin to kind of build it up from there. I mean, yeah, people build things in a different way to other people. You know, people might
Right.
want the stability of being within an internal kind of design environment where
Mhm.
they're the junior art worker and they want to start from there. But you've got to get into that role, so you've got to show willing. You've got to show that you've got some sort of portfolio work that represents you.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like regardless, just keep working, keep designing.
Just keep
Yeah,
going, yeah.
yeah,
And I think, yeah, the worst thing you can do is just sit there to have and create your CV with all these things that you've done, your academic performance and stuff, but not actually show any live, inverted commas work.
yeah.
You've got to show what you want people to see.
If you find the subject of graphic design inspiring and you're thinking, I want to know more, head over to graphicdesignacademy.com.au. Whether you just want to see if graphic design is for you or you're a pro and you need to upskill, there's a course for everyone.